Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So I want to talk to you about some of the things that the pre-tribulation rapture believers get right, which are super essential, and one of them is the most important thing that you can get right or get wrong, which is salvation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the feast days, okay? So people who believe in the rapture, meaning the pre-tribulation rapture, meaning that we will not have to go through the tribulation, but we, the church, believers will be raptured up before the bad stuff happens, before that 7-year period of Jacob's trouble, Daniel's 70th week, okay? Those people get two main things right, and I'll talk to you about that. The second one is the feast days, okay? So the first one, salvation. Most of these pre-tribulation rapture believers understand that it is by grace through faith that we are saved, not of works, lest any man should boast, okay? They know the gospel, that it is simply by your faith in Jesus Christ, not by your works, that you are saved and you are going to be raptured. So I would say 99% of the Rapture Watcher channels that I watch, the people who understand the doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture, get this right. And that is super important. It is the most important thing, that you get salvation right, that you get faith in Jesus. That is the most important thing, okay? Now, there's a big debate in the church about, is it a pre-tribulation, or do we have to go through the tribulation? Are we raptured at the end of the tribulation? Are we raptured in the middle, in the 3.5 years? The first 3.5 years are supposed to be peaceful. Then the Antichrist sits in the temple, claims that he's God, demands worship. Then you have the 3.5 years that are the worst time. Okay, the whole thing is called Jacob's trouble. The 70th week is the entire time. But the really, really bad stuff is going to happen at the midpoint, the 3.5 year mark. Okay, so some people believe in a mid-trib. I personally, right now, believe in pre-tribulation. I believe that the church will be raptured before the start of the 7 years, the last 7 years, and the 70th week of Daniel. If I'm wrong about that, which I could be, I am very confident in the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine because I've studied it a lot. But if we're wrong, we're looking at the mid-trib, okay? But one of the reasons why I'm making this video, I believe that the pre-tribulation rapture is the one that makes the most sense and is the most biblically backed, is, as I'm bringing up, the points that these rapture believers have theologically. They are right on about these other things, okay? And the first one is salvation, right? Like I was saying, 99% of the ones that I watch have 100% amazing, correct theology around salvation, that it is by grace and faith only. It is not by works. It's not about your obedience. That's it. Okay, so that's super important. And that gives them a big check mark. Now, people who believe in the post-tribulation rapture, that we have to go through the tribulation, guess what? I would say 99% of them have the wrong doctrine about salvation. They believe that you are not saved simply by your faith. It's not enough to just believe in Jesus. You have to work. Right? So most of those people believe that, who also believe that we have to go through the tribulation. We have to muster it through, and we have to work for our salvation. We have to work through the tribulation. I heard it said on one of my Rapture channels recently that the church has been going through tribulation for the past 2,000 years. Okay? The tribulation period is for the Jews and for the world, the unbelieving world. Okay? The second thing that these channels get right a lot of times is the feast days. These rapture believers understand the feast days, which is really cool, really important. And again, I think it's a big check in the pro mark to their argument of the pre-trib. Okay? Because most Christians don't have any knowledge of the feast days. They don't teach it in church, but they should. Now, the pre-trib believers, the rapture watchers, they know a lot about the feast days, but they don't, and they may celebrate them, you know, maybe with Messianic people, Messianic Jews in their congregation, or just a simple thing that they just acknowledge the day, maybe they take off. Some of them don't celebrate it. Some of them maybe celebrate it very mildly, right? Like they may not even celebrate it, but they just acknowledge it. Okay, today's Passover. We know that Passover is coming on the 14th, right, of this month. And They know God's calendar. They know about the new moon starting the month, right? The 15th of the month will be the full moon. That splits the month. God's calendar, a month is 30 days. Okay, then the moon starts to wane, right? And then it gets down to the dark moon, which is the end of the month. Okay, so most of God's holidays were on the full moon. Okay, Passover was on the 14th, right? So they know these things. And the new moons were actually holy days also. God told the Israelites to worship that on those days. So the cool thing is that these rapture people, again, another pro for them, is that they know lots about the feast days. They know the significance of the days. Why did it happen? Why did it happen on that day? What is the symbolism, right? But again, with the people who believe in the post-trib, when those people who do understand the feast days, they're most likely Hebrew Israelites or super strict Torah keepers. Well, nobody keeps Torah, but they're attempting to keep Torah, right? They think it's essential for them to keep Torah in order to be saved. Okay, so they will follow the feast days, but they'll do it in a way that is, let's say, legalistic. Okay, now guys, I'm talking out of experience. I've been a Torah observer. I've followed feast days myself. Okay, I have believed in the post-tribulation rapture when I first became a Christian, right? So I know what I'm talking about. I've looked at both sides. I've looked at all sides. Pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib, okay? And from what I see, church fathers were pre-trib. I don't see any post-trib stuff from church fathers. I see Origen talking about pre-trib, okay? Paul seems to be pre-trib, okay? Dispensationalism, understanding that is the key. That was big for me. For me, it happened like this. I was believing in the post-trib rapture for 4 years as a Seventh-day Adventist. I was works-based salvation. When I understood the gospel, that it's by grace and faith only, then I understood the dispensations, and then I understood and accepted the pre-trib rapture. It was that process for me. Didn't happen right away. In fact, I never thought I would believe in pre-trib. But once I understood the gospel,